A battery that costs 70 PHN/TRM less than lithium, lasts 3 times longer, works perfectly at -40 degrees, and mass production starts in 90 days. This isn't a concept, this isn't a prototype. CATL's chief scientist just confirmed it publicly, and the number he dropped will change how you think about every EV on the road today. Wu Kai, chief scientist at CATL and a member of the Chinese Academy of Engineering, made the announcement at the 2026 Equipment Powerhouse Forum. The message was direct. The core manufacturing bottlenecks that had blocked sodium-ion from reaching mass production have been resolved. Full-scale supply, not a pilot program, not a limited trial, begins in the fourth quarter of this year. The battery in question is CATL's Naxtra cell. At the mass production level, it achieves an energy density of 175 watt-hours per kilogram. For context, standard lithium iron phosphate, the most widely deployed EV battery chemistry in the world, typically sits between 160 and 180 watt-hours per kilogram at the cell level. That gap, which once made sodium-ion look like an inferior alternative, has effectively closed. But energy density is only one part of the story. The energy storage version of the Naxtra cell is a large format 300 plus amp. Our product, its system energy conversion efficiency hits 97 PHN/TRM, and its cycle life, this is where the numbers get genuinely surprising, exceeds 15,000 cycles at 80 PHN/TRM capacity retention. That is 3 times the lifespan of a typical lithium iron phosphate battery. To put that into perspective, lithium iron phosphate batteries are already considered long-lasting enough to outlive most vehicles. Sodium-ion is now tripling that number. There's a weakness with lithium-ion chemistry that manufacturers rarely advertise: cold weather performance. At -20 degrees Celsius, most lithium cells lose a significant portion of their usable capacity. At -40, performance drops sharply enough to be a genuine problem for drivers in northern climates, Canada, Scandinavia, parts of Russia, and Central Asia. Sodium-ion handles this differently. At a fundamental chemistry level, the Naxtra cell operates across a temperature range of -40 to +70 degrees Celsius. More importantly, at -40 degrees, it retains approximately 90 PHN/TRM of its nominal capacity. Not 60 PHN/TRM, not 70 PHN/TRM, 90%. That is not a marginal improvement. That is a structural advantage that lithium-ion, by its electrochemical nature, cannot easily replicate. Lithium ions slow down dramatically in cold temperatures because of how they interact with the electrolyte. Sodium ions, being larger and with different binding characteristics, move more freely under the same conditions. For markets like Canada, Scandinavia, and northern China, this isn't a nice-to-have feature. It's the kind of performance gap that decides which technology gets adopted at scale. CATL knows this, and the targeting of cold climate markets with sodium cells is already part of the roadmap. An announcement means very little without orders. CATL has the orders. The company just secured what is being reported as the largest single sodium battery contract in history, 60 gigawatt-hours from Beijing Hyper-Strong Technology, for utility-scale energy storage deployment. To frame that number correctly, 60 gigawatt-hours is roughly equal to half of all the energy storage batteries CATL shipped across the entire year of 2025. In a single contract, that tells you where the immediate demand is coming from. Not passenger vehicles, not consumer EVs. The first major wave of sodium-ion deployment will go into grid-scale energy storage, storing electricity from solar and wind farms, stabilizing power grids, replacing the diesel backup systems that utilities across Asia still depend on. This is the market that can absorb enormous production volumes immediately, without waiting for automotive supply chains to retool. CATL has also made a strategic engineering decision that removes one of the biggest barriers to adoption. The Naxtra cell shares the same physical dimensions as CATL's existing lithium-ion products. That means manufacturers, both for vehicles and for stationary storage, can integrate sodium cells into existing infrastructure without redesigning their battery packs, their assembly lines, or their thermal management systems. The swap is almost plug and play. On the passenger vehicle side, the first sodium-powered mass market car is arriving within months. The Chang'an Nevo A06, fitted with Naxtra cells, targets the entry-level segment vehicles. Price below approximately $14,500. That positioning reflects where energy density currently sits. But it is not the ceiling. CATL's roadmap for sodium-ion already targets single-charge ranges of 600 kilometers. At that range, sodium-ion becomes a direct competitor to mid-range lithium phosphate configurations, not just budget commuter cars, but mainstream EVs sold in competitive global markets. Technology performance matters, but in the battery industry, cost is what actually determines which chemistry wins. Sodium has a fundamental raw material advantage that no amount of lithium processing innovation can overcome. Sodium is one of the most abundant elements on Earth. It is extracted from ordinary salt, sodium chloride, which exists in effectively unlimited quantities. Lithium, by contrast, is geographically concentrated, expensive to extract, and tied to volatile supply chains in South America and Australia. Cobalt, which some lithium chemistries still require, is even more problematic, with supply heavily concentrated in the Democratic Republic of Congo, under conditions that have raised serious ethical concerns for years. Sodium-ion uses neither lithium nor cobalt. In the near term, within the next 2 years, CATL targets a cost reduction of approximately 30 PHN/TRM compared to lithium iron phosphate. That alone would make sodium-ion cells significantly more affordable than the most cost-competitive lithium chemistry currently on the market. But the long-term number is more dramatic. CATL's roadmap targets a final cost of $19 per kilowatt-hour for sodium-ion cells. Current lithium iron phosphate sits at approximately $55 to $60 per kilowatt-hour. If that trajectory holds, sodium-ion would be roughly 65 to 70 PHN/TRM cheaper than LFP. Not at some distant theoretical future point, but within the planning horizon of decisions being made right now. A 70 PHN/TRM cost reduction, applied to the world's most widely deployed battery chemistry, does not just make EVs more affordable. It reshapes the entire economics of energy storage. For vehicles, for homes, for utilities, for emerging markets where grid reliability is still a daily problem. That is the scale of what CATL is positioning itself to deliver. CATL now runs 3 parallel production lines: lithium iron phosphate, nickel manganese cobalt, and sodium-ion. In April 2026 alone, the company installed 29 gigawatt-hours of EV batteries across China, a 47 PHN/TRM market share in a single month. The world's largest battery manufacturer just became significantly more difficult to compete with. For North American markets, the transition will take longer. Billions of dollars are already committed to lithium phosphate infrastructure in the United States, and supply chains do not pivot overnight. Realistically, sodium-ion will not reach mainstream adoption there for 5 to 10 years. But the direction is no longer in question. The chemistry works, the manufacturing is scaling, the cost curve is pointing down. Sodium-ion is no longer the battery of the future. It's the battery of Q4 2026.